I'm Irma. Standing in the middle of the chaos, I watched as 48 phones lit up simultaneously. The sound of notifications filled the air like a chorus of judgment. My mother had just sent a bill to all our relatives, a bill labeled the cost of raising a disappointment, totaling $347,000. The audacity of it all was overwhelming, but I was ready. I had been collecting evidence for 3 years, ever since I stumbled upon something I wasn't supposed to see. In a hidden folder on my phone, named Insurance, were 3 files, a screenshot, a PDF, and a spreadsheet. They held the truth about my mother's lies, her theft, and her betrayal. As I looked around the room, I saw the shock and discomfort on the faces of my relatives. Some pitied me, some were entertained, and some looked away in discomfort. But I didn't care. I was done being the scapegoat, the disappointment. This was my chance to expose the truth and finally take back control of my life. I took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Mom," I said, my voice cutting through the silence like a blade. "Since we're sharing numbers today, I have some of my own." Her smirk flickered, and I could see the first flicker of fear beneath her confidence. I opened my email app and selected all 48 family contacts. "You calculated what I cost you, Mom. Seems only fair I calculate what you cost me." With a single tap, I sent the evidence that would shatter her carefully constructed world. The room fell silent as the truth began to sink in. My mother's composure cracked, and for the first time, I saw the uncertainty in her eyes. She tried to defend herself, to turn the tables, but it was too late. The damage was done. As the story unfolds in reverse, let me take you back to the beginning. I'm a financial analyst at a mid-sized accounting firm in Chicago. Numbers have always made sense to me because they don't lie, unlike the people in my family. I lived in a small 700-square-foot apartment in Lincoln Park. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I'd been paying the rent on my own since I was 24, with no help from anyone. My sister, Ava, 5 years older than me, had just bought a luxurious 5-bedroom mansion in Winnetka. Our parents had gifted her the down payment of $150,000, wrapped in a vow of false pride. I found out about it through her Facebook post, as usual. When I graduated from the University of Chicago with a degree in finance, summa cum laude, I got a text from Mom. "Congratulations." It was 4 weeks late, and there was no excitement in her words. When Ava was promoted to a senior partner at her law firm, they threw her a lavish party. The whole family flew in, and I watched from the sidelines, another invisible guest. My boyfriend, Jake, of 3 years, often asked me why I still bothered with family gatherings. Why I still answer my mother's calls. I didn't have a good answer. Part of me kept hoping that one day, she'd see me for who I really was. But as time went on, I realized that was just a pipe dream. Working in finance taught me the importance of numbers. They don't play favorites, and they expose the truth. 3 years ago, I started noticing the discrepancies. When it was time for college, both Ava and I were supposed to have education funds set up by our grandparents. But while Ava graduated debt-free, I graduated with $85,000 in student loans. Mom told me my fund had run out due to unexpected high school expenses like private tutoring and international summer programs. I believed her then, but numbers have a way of speaking louder than words. 2 weeks before Mother's Day, Mom announced a family reunion. Not just our immediate family, but every aunt, uncle, cousin, and in-law, a total of 48 people. It was going to be at Grandma Helen's farmhouse in Wisconsin. "It's been too long since we've all been together," she said in the family group chat. "Let's make this Mother's Day special." I stared at my phone, a sense of unease creeping over me. Jake was cooking dinner when I told him. He paused, spatula in hand. "You don't have to go," he said. I knew he was right, but I also knew that avoiding her wasn't going to solve anything. The next day, Ava called, her voice sickly sweet. "Hey, you're coming early to help set up, right? Like always." I replied, "Sure," knowing that I'd be the one slaving away while she showed up late in designer clothes. That night, I opened the insurance folder on my laptop. The files inside were like a time capsule of my mother's secrets. I'd been collecting them for 3 years, but I never thought I'd actually have to use them. As I lay in bed, I couldn't sleep. Something about this gathering felt like a trap. Mother's Day morning, I arrived at Grandma Helen's farmhouse at 6 a.m. The sun was just starting to rise, and the dew on the grass sparkled like diamonds. The old farmhouse was beautiful, but it held so many painful memories. I spent the next 4 hours cooking, cleaning, and decorating for the 48 guests. Ava arrived at 11:30 a.m. Looking picture, perfect in a designer dress, and carrying a bouquet of flowers that probably cost more than my monthly groceries. She kissed Mom on both cheeks and complimented the decorations, the ones I'd spent hours on. Mom smiled and said, "I had a little help," not even bothering to look at me. By noon, the house was filled with relatives. Mom was the center of attention, soaking up the praise and compliments like a sponge. I stayed in the kitchen, used to being invisible. During the family photo, Mom positioned everyone on the porch steps. She placed Ava right beside her, and then looked at me. "Irma, dear, stand in the back. You're taller, you'll block everyone." I gritted my teeth and stood in the back. That's when Grandma Helen appeared beside me and squeezed my elbow. "Whatever happens today, hold your ground," she whispered. I didn't understand then, but I would soon. After lunch, the toasts began. Uncle Tom went first, raising his glass to the heart of the family. Aunt Mary followed, crying about sisterhood. One by one, the cousins stood up, praising moms, especially Mom. I stayed silent, used to being overlooked. Then Mom stood up. She smoothed her silk dress and picked up her wine glass. The room fell silent. "Thank you all for being here," she began. "Being a mother is the most rewarding but also the hardest job. I've been blessed with 2 daughters, 2 very different daughters. One has made me proud every day, and one has tested me." Her eyes met mine, and I could feel the hostility. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. "I've prepared something special for all of you, and for one daughter in particular." Phones started buzzing as she sent the email. "I want everyone to see exactly what it costs to raise a disappointment," she said. The room went still as the email loaded on everyone's phones. The subject line read, "The cost of raising a disappointment," and the body was an itemized spreadsheet of my 30-year existence, totaling $347,000. Mom read some of the items aloud, her voice filled with venom. Orthodontia, $8,000. Does she ever say thank you? Birthday parties, $1,500 over 20 years. Did she ever appreciate a single one? I stood frozen by the kitchen doorway, 48 pairs of eyes on me. Some looked pityingly, some were entertained, and some looked away in discomfort. This was the moment I had been waiting for. I reached for my phone and opened the insurance folder. I walked toward the center of the room. "Mom, since we're sharing numbers, let me share some of my own." I opened my email app and selected all 48 contacts. "You've been calculating my cost, but now it's time to see what you've cost me." I pressed send, and the room was filled with the sound of notifications. The first attachment in the email was a PDF. "Mom, you charged me for my college education in your bill, but I paid for it myself with $85,000 in student loans. Grandma and Grandpa set up education trusts for both Ava and me, $100,000 each. But my trust was withdrawn in full on September 1st, 2018, 1 month before I started college, and the money was transferred to your account. 1 week later, you bought a new Mercedes-Benz cash." Murmurs rippled through the room. Dad stood up, his face pale. "Linda, is this true?" Mom tried to defend herself, saying it was for family expenses, but her words were weak. The second attachment was a spreadsheet. "For the past 3 years, I've been getting strange letters from the IRS. It turns out you've claimed me as a dependent on your federal taxes for 5 consecutive years, even though I've been living independently since I was 24. You've received between $5,000 and $7,000 in tax benefits each year, a total of approximately $30,000 in tax fraud using my Social Security number." Uncle George, a retired accountant, spoke up. "That's a federal crime, Linda." Dad's hands were gripping the edge of the table. "Linda, you told me Irma agreed to this." The third attachment was about identity theft. "Mom, Do you remember when I applied for my first apartment after college? I got rejected because my credit score was 510. I'd never missed a payment in my life and had never had a credit card. It turns out you opened 3 credit cards in my name between 2017 and 2020, all maxed out, totaling $50,000 in debt. And Ava, some of the statements were shipped to your address. You received packages in my name for 3 years, including a $10,000 diamond necklace. Ava's face turned white. I didn't know. Mom said it was an emergency. I stared at her. An emergency that lasted 3 years? Buying luxury items was an emergency? Aunt Mary rose from her seat, her face shocked. Ava, how could you? Ava's composure shattered, and she started crying. Mom told me you wouldn't find out. Mom saw that the situation was slipping out of her control. She tried to change tactics, pretending to be the victim. She started sobbing, saying she'd given everything to me, and this was how I repaid her. But no one was fooled this time. Grandma Helen, who had been sitting silently, finally spoke. Linda, I've suspected something for a long time. Your treatment of Irma was unacceptable. And now I've made a decision. I've changed my will. You were originally set to receive 40% of my estate, but that's been reduced to 5%. Irma's share has increased from 10% to 35%. Your father's portion remains the same. This is about justice. Mom was in shock. She tried to argue, to threaten, but it was too late. The truth had come out, and there was no going back. As the days went by, the full impact of the revelation became clear. Dad moved out and filed for divorce. Mom was ostracized by the family, with 47 relatives blocking her on all social media platforms. Ava reached out to me, asking for forgiveness. I told her I couldn't forgive her right away, but I understood why she did it. My credit score, once destroyed by my mother's actions, started to climb after I cleared up the fraud. I made a significant payment on my student loans with Grandma Helen's late graduation gift of $60,000. Jake and I moved into a new apartment in the city, a fresh start. Dad and I started having Sunday dinners together. We talked, we laughed, and I realized that blood isn't always thicker than water. Sometimes, the family you choose is more important than the one you're born into. A few weeks later, I received a letter from a man named David. He said he'd received my DNA profile through a genetic testing service and discovered we shared a biological connection. He wasn't asking for anything, just wanted me to know he existed. I wasn't sure what to do. I'd spent 30 years with one father, and now there was another possibility.
Jake told me it was my choice.
You've spent your whole life having others define you. This is your chance to decide what you want.
I thought about it for a long time.
Eventually, I wrote him an email, thanking him for reaching out but saying I needed time. My mother showed up at my workplace one day. She looked older, thinner. She tried to apologize, but I couldn't let myself be drawn back in. I told her I wasn't cutting her out forever, but until she respected my boundaries, we had nothing to talk about. As I watched her walk away, I felt a sense of freedom. I finally had control over my life, and I knew that no matter what the future held, I was stronger than I'd ever been. I'm Irma, and my bill is paid in full.